RetroGroove. Enjoy your voyage.
Howdy and welcome to RetroGroove. Adam here, and I'm here with Liam as usual, but we also have a special guest, Mark Says Hi, with us. He is a friend of the show, also a former guest, was quite instrumental in our Weezer retrospective episode, if you want to go back and check that out. But today we're going a little bit off schedule, and we thought it was it was worth putting together a quick, we might call it a 45 episode. Something tragic has happened in the music world, and we felt like it was worth coming together and talking about rather than waiting 2 weeks to talk about it in a regular episode on the schedule. So I'm going to hand it over a little bit. Liam, I appreciate, and Mark, I appreciate y'all coming on short notice and putting this thing together really quick. And I think it's definitely worth having the conversation and honoring Taylor and his contribution. But why don't y'all talk about what we intend on doing here today?
Yeah, I mean, so I think when we were talking beforehand, I just saw this at 11:30 at night, checked my phone right before going to bed, and had to read it 10 times. Laid down, couldn't fall asleep, couldn't believe it, like just really hard to digest. And then got up the next day and have had a very hard time processing this for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to both of you guys because both of you are the people that I would talk to about this stuff. And so, yeah, Mark, I'm glad that you could be here and that we could do this, because I feel like the best thing in this situation, if I know either of you, is to kind of talk through this and what you feel. And I think, Mark, you said beforehand, you were saying, let's celebrate them. Let's talk it through. But yeah, I mean, Mark, I don't know what your situation was when you heard and how you've been feeling on it all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like most people, you're getting ready to go to bed and you're ripping through social media as you do. You plan on going to bed at 11 o'clock and you end up staying up till 2 a.m. because you go down some rabbit hole of watching some concert you wish you were at in 1994.
Yeah.
And, the first thing I opened up Instagram, and on somebody's story, I saw rest in peace, man, what a cool drummer. And I was like, what? And
No way.
And I saw Taylor Hawkins' name and I was like, you got to be kidding me. This guy's 50.
Yeah.
And so immediately, I go to other social media platforms trying to confirm this thing. And sure enough, you see someone published 6 minutes ago, just to let you know how fast this traveled around, minutes after, word got out, this thing was all over the world, just to let you know how much of a big impact it was. And, I proceeded to stay up until I fell asleep watching videos of him playing drums. So, I did that yesterday and I did that today. And, it's, for me personally, not only as a musician, but specifically as a drummer, and we can get into more of this later, but
please.
He had the dream job, man. Playing arenas or huge festivals every night for one of the coolest bands in the biz. And, playing drums behind a guy from my hometown who made me want to play drums, and he was a drummer. I mean, it's just cyclical how much of a circle goes round and round. So, if I lose it a little bit, I apologize ahead of time.
Yeah. But a weird gig that he had, right? Because he was then the drummer for the band of the iconic drummer who for the first 2 albums, that self-titled and Color and Shape, Dave basically played the drums himself. I think there was somebody else who played on it a bit, but like there wasn't another drummer until the third album. So like how to fill the shoes of the iconic rock drummer of the time, and now you're the drummer in the drummer's band. that's weird. Like that's a weird spot to fill. And he has said that like he gives so much credit to Dave for taking the chance on him because he doesn't feel like he was the right drummer, so to speak, for what the Foo Fighters were. He's a different kind of drummer than who Dave is, but Dave had that vision. Dave saw in him what he was and what he wanted the band to be. And again, this goes a little too wide, but like you listen to the catalog of the Foo Fighters and the fact that that band can do metal and can do prog rock and
Right.
can do glam rock is all because, I mean, Adam and I have speculated on whether or not to label the Foo Fighters as a super group because they technically are. You know, like everybody in that band was in other stuff, but they're so wide in what their abilities are. And Taylor was a force, man. It's crazy.
Well, he's not to cut in here, but he's definitely the only one that could have. Like, I'm thinking of other drummers, and even, you know, because personality has a lot to do with it, right?
Yeah.
Even in some cases, more so the quality of play, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be up on stage with your friends. At least that's why I wanted to do it in the first place, right? And if whether we mastered our instruments or still sucked at them, I'm up here with my friends, and at the end of the day, that's what you want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
But to talk about that transition of, and I can speak to this too, having recorded an album playing all the instruments, it's hard to hand over the keys to any aspect of what you're trying to do, right? So Dave, obviously famous for being in Nirvana at that point. What's his next move, right? And I'll never forget landing in an airport in Raleigh, Durham, and there was a record store in the airport, and the Foo Fighters' first album had just come out that day. And when I went in the record store, I was like, what is this Foo Fighters? You know, there's not much internet back then. Nobody knows what's going on. And the guy at the running the shop is like, oh, this is Dave Grohl, the drummer for Nirvana's new band. I was like, Dave Grohl, of course. Oh my God, buying it. So just bought it, right? And you're reading the liner notes and you're like, Dave played everything. Okay. Second album. Well, then he has to get a live drummer, right, to support the album.
Right.
And that drummer was from Sunny Day Real Estate, just like the bass player.
Oh, really? That I didn't know.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you're like, okay, cool, makes sense, right? Who are you going to call in? And Mendel's like, yo, let's bring in Sunny Day drummer. And then they go to record the second album, and he just can't do what Dave wants him to do because everyone forgets, like, recording an album and playing live are two completely different animals, right? And great drummers can do both very well. Good drummers can do one or the other really well, right? And unfortunately, he just couldn't cut it. And so famously, Dave goes back in, re-records all the parts.
All this stuff.
So imagine when it's time to finally decide on getting a drummer permanently, and you know this story of, okay, guy did it all himself the first time, tried to bring in a guy the second time, not good enough, so I'm just going to do it myself. Now we're going to make a new record, bring in guy. And I don't know how many people know this either, but Taylor only recorded about half the drums on Nothing Left to Lose. So the other half is Dave. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And you could look up track by track who played drums on it. So they're literally working Taylor into the band, right? Because he joined the band in 97 to support Color in the Shape.
Fun Shape.
And then it's time to record another album, and he's only doing half of it. And so you're like, if I was Taylor, I'd be freaked out. I'd be like, well, it's the end of the road for me. Cool. Lay down a couple tracks in the next record. Yep. Got to play My Hero a couple times live. Pretty sweet, you know? But so I just, you know, as a drummer myself, God, the headspace he must have been in, you know? And it's not like Taylor wasn't pro, right? He's coming off of being Alanis Morissette's drummer, and, you know, she's nothing to shake your head at because she was one of the biggest artists of that time.
He was already playing arenas.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's got the experience, and you know he can slam it out live. Yeah. But, you know.
It's funny that you mentioned, like, obviously we should address the Alanis side of things, but there was, you know, everybody's been putting up their tweets, and like the outpouring of love on this has been so huge. And there was one that I saw today that, again, made me think of you, because Travis Barker tweets. I don't know if you saw it, but it was something to the effect of like, I have no words. I was playing in I was a trash man playing in a punk band at dive bars when you were touring with Alanis. And I'm like, I know what band you're talking
That's
about.
right. I know what band that is.
That's your time in the Aquabats.
And that's
is
not
it
a
not?
trash band. What are you talking
Yeah, I know.
about?
Come on. And I was like, I got the number one Aquabats fan over here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get it what he's trying to say from a comparison standpoint, right? I mean, they're gutting it out. And look, to be honest, the Aquabats are very niche, right? There's definitely a ceiling on that, right?
Yeah.
Versus something like Alanis, where it's like you're playing all over the world. I've got the multiple number one songs. This album is 5 times platinum, and we're still touring on it.
I mean, he's all over MTV.
Sure.
He was in the music videos. Yeah.
If you watch You Ought to Know video, like he stands out. You're like, who's this guy ripping through the,
who is this
between
guy?
his hair, between his look, between everything. And that's why when he was brought up as the new Foo Fighters drummer, it's like, of course he got that guy. That guy is incredible.
Yeah. And so the first time that I remember seeing him was in the Learn to Fly video where he's dressed up like the stewardess. And I'm like, who is this guy? Because like you knew who Jack Black was. You then learn about Tenacious D. They're the ones who smuggle the drugs on the flight in that video. But like, I remember seeing Taylor dressed like a woman and being like, this person, he just stands out.
Sure.
He's such a character. And it's crazy. You see that go through his entire career and he never stops. He seems relentless. He's got the Coattail Riders in 2006. He does Chevy Metal, like that covers band. And then he's like, I've got so much music I need to get out of me. I can't get the Coattail Riders together. So I'm going to create the Birds of Satan, which is basically Chevy Metal, but I'm going to record my own music. Like the guy just has to get it out. And like you see those videos of him when I remember seeing him come out from behind the drum kit and perform with the Foos as the singer for like a Queen cover or whatever, like he would come out.
An awesome singer and can
dominate the stage.
He's a great voice.
And who does that remind you of?
Comes out from behind the stage.
And who does that remind you of? It's Dave Grohl.
His brother from another mother.
It's Dave Grohl 2.0. Think about it.
Yeah.
If the unfortunate death of Kurt Cobain wouldn't have happened, this is probably what happens with Dave Grohl, right? Yeah. He's going to bust out of that cage anyway.
And
the guy was already writing songs. He's already doing all this stuff. So it's, I'm not them. I don't know, but there's just so much symmetry there. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So talking about seeing them live, I mean, Mark, I know you've seen the band a bunch. Adam, did you ever get to see Foo Fighters perform at all?
No, I think that was one of the ones that ended up getting postponed once, the world fell apart.
Yeah.
Ugh, bummer.
Yeah. Just like that, their presentation, and admittedly, like, I am not the diehard Foo Fighters fan. I love them, but I don't live and breathe every album and whatnot. But their concerts were infectious. I mean, it was the energy was always fantastic. And I saw them in a small room, and I saw them at festivals, and it just incredible. But Taylor always stood out. Like, Pat Smear was happy to be there and he was rocking it, and Nate was just in the pocket and cool, and Dave is Dave, and Shiflett is, a cornerstone. Shiflett. But Taylor he was so flashy, man. He'd have like Van Halen pants on or something and some tiger stripe tank top and hair everywhere and teeth. And man, there was something so distinctive.
He single-handedly changed the way I sat behind the kit.
Oh, really?
This is such a weird thing, like such a weird detail. But when I would watch him play, he leans into it. It's almost like he's sitting too close, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I could feel that he just wanted to like rocket ship out of that drum kit, right? So when I started playing, I was like, you know what, man? I need to play every show like it's my last show on earth, and just bring it to the point where I'm gonna launch through these drums. And it's like small little details like that, as a drummer, you watch the drummer, but like to hear people say things like that. And what you're talking about, Liam, it's so true, man. The guy, a smile on his face the whole time he's playing, just
Always. Yeah.
3-hour long shows, just crushing. I mean,
He seemed to have just endless energy, right? Like you never saw him looking tired, not once.
No, he had this drive to him for sure. I mean, anytime that I was lucky enough to engage with him, there was this momentum to him, right? There was like, I never saw him just in a chill state. He always seemed like he had something he was working on, something he wanted to talk about, something he seemed like a fan. Anytime I engaged with the guy, he would be talking about Queen, or that he was doing this thing with someone from Jane's Addiction. He was basically friends with that entire band and collaborated with all of them at some point. I mean, Pink has come up on this podcast a bunch of times now. He played on one of her albums. Like, he was just with everybody, dude. He always had something going on. I do, not to like couch psychoanalyze or whatever, but there is something to like being the drummer and having that big personality and wanting to be, I don't want to say more, but just like diversify or have that presence. Like, he was a front man and a drummer at the same time, and that's not something that you can usually do. And like, Mark, I'm talking to you, like, I'm sure that you've felt that before, because you've juggled the two things where you're the drummer in a band, but then you are a front man. You've done that. So like, it's got to be this weird dichotomy of, I can do this and I love drumming, but also I have this I want to present to the world. I have this stuff I want to get out, and I need to do that.
And it could be completely different than the band you're playing drums in, right? Yeah. And so kudos to Dave Grohl, and it's just a testament to how cool he is, because I can tell you, as a drummer who has stuff that has to get out of him, most bands aren't cool with that, because they don't want you diverting your energy towards anything but playing drums for whatever band you're playing drums for. Yeah. But to bring it back to Dave writing while he was in Nirvana, like it was just destined to happen. I think he understands that and he gets it. And instead of trying to, suppress that, let that cat out of the bag. And now look at all these cool moments that happen at these Foo Fighters concerts where, he gets up and sings a track and Dave gets to go back and play drums. And then you're at that show and you're like, oh my God, I saw Dave play drums for Foo Fighters while Taylor sang. Or Taylor just takes a back seat. And forgive me, but that young girl's name who had that sort of like drum battle with Dave Grohl, Bushnell or whatever, gets to come out on stage, and Taylor just takes a seat back and goes like, look how cool this is. Oh, I mean, you read that story about that this is the power of Taylor, just to let everybody understand that, because if you miss this story, it is exactly what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. He's down in South America, right? They're on tour, and there's a little girl. I can't remember how old she is.
She's 9.
Yeah. So inspired by Taylor and wants to play drums so bad. She just goes, I'm bringing my drum set. This is the balls she has.
Yep. I'm just going to bring rock and roll right there, right?
Right. And Liam knows I've done this. I've made t-shirts of a guest that's come into our, when we used to work together. And I'm going to show up at the front when they walk in, and they're going to read the shirt, because it brings it out of you. And this girl sets up her drum set outside of his hotel and just plays until he comes out.
Yep.
Amazing. Yeah.
I mean, what?
And he comes out.
And he comes out.
That's the thing.
I mean, just what a gift, man. And this is why it's so heartbreaking. And, we mentioned, we wish we could be talking about him under better circumstances, but what a great opportunity to celebrate him. Two things I want to add here, because I know you guys put links, alongside these pods. Two links you got to put up there. One, Record Store Day 2015. The Foo Fighters play my hometown record shop called the Record Connection. They played in. So I grew up in Warren. I was born in the same hospital as Dave Grohl. I don't know if that's been if I brought that up, but
no.
So I was born in the same hospital as Dave Grohl, and as it turns out, before he moved to Virginia when he was 2 years old, my parents babysat him. This is a story for another pod, but before his parents split up and he chose to go live with his mother in Virginia. My parents had just been married and were trying to make money and were babysitting people. And they found an old ledger or book or something when they were cleaning out the house. And my dad calls me and is like, do you know a David Grohl?
Oh my
David,
God. Don't even.
Yeah. And I lost it and whatever. Long story short. So pretty cool thing. But so Dave's from, Warren, Ohio, and we didn't have a record shop in Warren. It was in the next town over called Niles. It's 20,000 people maybe, if everybody had 5 babies on the same day.
Right.
And the guy who owns the shop went to school with my mom, and it's one of those towns where everybody knows everybody, but the Foos showed up and played like they were playing an arena to like 50 people that were inside the shop. So I got to put a link up to that. It's really incredible. And then the other thing is this Taylor Hawkins Masterclass that BBC Radio 6 did in the UK.
Okay.
It's 40 plus minutes, maybe longer. And it's just Taylor sitting behind a kit talking to the person doing the interview about his entire life story of getting into drums, where he is at that point in his career. And he talks about all the nooks and crannies. And then when he talks about his influences, he plays bits of the drums that he learned from said drummer. And it's just like,
oh my God,
I watched it 10 times since he passed away. And and I know I'm not the only drummer, but his story is my story. He had crap drums that he pieced together. Some were garbage and fake and plastic. He just played along to the radio. He didn't know what he was doing. Tried to learn every single style of music. It just, because drummers are like unicorns, man. There's not a lot of them because no one wants to carry this stuff around, and it's where do you practice and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But he did exactly what I did, and I was just like, and he made it, and he's in the Foo Fighters, and he's playing arenas. This dude is representing me. And so, that gets to the core of why this one just hurts so bad. Because to your point about him being a fan, he's already a fan of Dave Grohl before he gets in Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So imagine being a fan every night. And he says, I get nervous. I get butterflies every night because you have a boss on stage that you need to make look good. But you're also like, I'm playing for me, and I'm playing in front of boatloads of people that paid a lot of good money to be here.
Yeah.
And I have to be awesome every night for 3 hours. And then I got to get on a plane and do it the next night. So I can't party, like just the way he approached playing, his mindset, his just happy demeanor, just the total package. I mean, Taylor's the dream drummer for any band.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I could go on and on, guys.
It's fine.
That's why you're here, dude.
It's great. No,
that's what this is about, for sure.
But the fan thing, so as I kind of dived into what was sticking in my gears, because we've lost a lot of great people, and Adam and I have talked about this a little bit, where it's just the cadence I don't think will ever stop. We're going to constantly be in a state of losing some idols or icons. This one, obviously, aside from the fact that it's very unexpected, he's very young, but I'm like, why is this one really sticking with me? And where I'm at right now kind of dovetails into what you were just saying, Mark, which is like every experience that I had with him, Taylor was a fan. Like anytime I engaged with him, I did a thing with him where he hosted this conversation and performance with Soundgarden. And I mean, he's the drummer for the Foo Fighters. Like, granted, he's sitting there with Matt Cameron and Chris Cornell and everybody, but like,
what a room.
It was crazy. But like, when the band played, when Soundgarden played, Taylor Hawkins is sat crisscross applesauce in the front with the craziest look of just awe as he watches Matt Cameron play drums. And I'm like, this guy loves this. Yep. This guy is one of the like top drummers in the world, and he's sitting here absorbing this. You look at, he had his studio space, the Hawk's Nest at his house, and it was this shrine, like this safe space, this man cave, but it was this shrine to his idols. It was his shrine to Brian May and Roger Taylor of Queen and Van Halen and Stuart Copeland. And he had autographed posters and these big photos of him with his icons because he got to play with them all. They all embraced him. And like, this guy loves music the way that I do. And he is him and I'm just me, but like, I can appreciate his passion for it because he's the biggest drummer in the world, and yet he still feels the same way that I feel when you put on a Queen album. You know, it's crazy. I the loss of that passion, and obviously we don't know the story behind what happened here, and it's going to be tragic. He had kids, and it's
married,
brutal.
kids, the whole nine.
It's that all of that obviously strikes, and it
50.
hurts. It hurts so bad.
50
He
years
didn't
old.
even look 50 either. Like,
No.
I'm looking at the picture of him in that article with the 9-year-old girl from South America, and I feel like I look older than him. You know, he looks 35 here, so it's just so tragic and so unexpected.
What's his calorie count burn every night, right? I mean,
yeah.
it's probably like a billion. Well, you know, I wanted to tag on to what you said there, Liam, because Taylor is the perfect example of how I approach music, and this is why it hurts me so much. Is, you know, for a fact he never lost the feeling, never complacent,
never jaded. Doesn't feel like a job, always wants to keep learning to get better. Yeah. It's the perfect balance of, I have a job to do, but at the same time, holy cow, why am I here? How am I here? I'm in love with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, the perfect marriage, right? And to your point about him staring crisscross applesauce at Matt Cameron is because every drummer is like a fingerprint. There are no two the same. No matter how you try, no matter how hard you try to mimic your heroes or whatever, it'll never be exactly the same. And when someone can own their own fingerprint like that, of course you're going to sit and stare, man. I mean, Matt Cameron can't be any more different than Taylor Hawkins on the drums, but they are both like unbelievable in their own right and perfect for their bands that they play in. Yeah. And maybe they could play in each other's bands, but it wouldn't be what it is. You know what I mean? Right. It's just, I mean, I get it. I get why. You're sitting in front of Matt Cameron. I'd be in the front row too. I'd be like, can I just hold your snare? Don't even use the snare stand. I'll just hold your snare. Like,
and it's not our question to answer, but it does then beg the question of like, what happens? I don't know. Like, Foo Fighters has always been Dave Grohl. It's always been his supergroup collection of buddies. Sometimes Bob Mould's in the band. Who knows? Sure. You know, like Rami Jaffe is now in the band. He was in the Wallflowers. Like, it could be anybody. But it also feels like it's a unit. And this is going to be really weird and hard. And I can't imagine what any of them are going through. Not just Dave, but anybody in that group, because they're a band of brothers. I mean, it's like Pat Smear, correct me if I'm wrong on my history, he was in the band for the first album ish, right? Like he
played on the tour. He played on the,
Yeah, he played with Dave in those early days, and then he went off and did his thing, and now has come back around, and he's like been a Foo Fighter, but he wasn't, but he was always kind of in it. I feel like you get it. There's a tattoo or a brand or like a secret microchip that you get where you're like, I'm a Foo Fighter now.
Right. Getting sworn in as a Goonie, very similar. Yeah.
It's a Goonie. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's rock and roll's Goonies. Like, how do you lose a Goonie?
Liam, before you asked that question, I that thought hadn't even crossed my mind, to be honest with you.
What happens?
Any other band, it would have been like, how can I get an audition? With the Foo Fighters, hasn't even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in the band since 1997. That's, if my math's correct, 25 years.
But I look at, so Soundgarden hasn't done it, but Stone Temple Pilots did it with Chester Bennington, and that obviously then transpired with what it did. But like, Alice in Chains continued on, like bands have found ways to continue on.
AC/DC, one of the most famous, right? I mean
AC/DC for sure, yeah.
Legendary records after the
Metallica too.
Drummer is just, dude, though. It's like, I think people don't understand the impact of the drummer until it's a different one.
Especially this drummer too. Yeah. Because drummers leave bands. And the band will sound different if you have the discerning ear, but it's not it doesn't change the texture of the band as a whole sometimes. I feel like the Offspring went through a bunch of drummers. I mean, there's some bands that have just leaned into the fact that they have a different drummer every 2 or 3 albums. But
you want to talk
I don't,
about real big fish in band members?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
420.
So I don't know. I don't know. There has to be a Foo Fighters. I can't imagine a future without the Foo Fighters. It doesn't end here, but I also don't know what it is.
Here's what I think happens if I don't want. I'm not in the.
It's hard. It's impossible.
Yeah, I'm not in the prediction business. But
right.
If I was Dave, and I'm not Dave, but if I were Dave,
same hospital though.
Same. Maybe there's a little Dave in me. Who knows? You never know what spilled on the floor that day.
That's right.
This is what I would do, because this is really, in my opinion, the only solution. Because it would not only honor Taylor in more ways than one, meaning like having someone else play, but it wouldn't be replacing him either. And that's just, you find a different drummer for every tour. So next tour, it's Chad from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Next tour, it's
Travis Barker.
Yeah, next tour, it's Matt Cameron. Yeah. Next tour, it's whoever. And then that way you can honor him and not replace him at the same time. And then everybody just kind of becomes an honorary Foo. And that's how you go on, man. I mean, these guys are in their 50s, right? And so, they're not playing coffee house rock. So, if you're lucky enough to live to 80, and you're trying to hammer out these tunes, I mean, what better way to do it, right? Because then it can also give Dave an opportunity to showcase young drummers and up and coming bands that are that he's really into. These bands that the Foos bring out on the road with them all the time. Why not slot some people in and just kind of make it a rotating couch of awesomeness? I mean, that's what I would do. This is just me thinking on the fly.
No, I don't know what he does. I can't. It's weird to see the number of people who are saying, they feel bad for Dave. They're worried about Dave. There's all these pictures of Dave with Cobain and then with Taylor, and I don't love it. Everybody's hurting in that.
What a weird thing to do. Like, now you're bringing up a second death. Like, this guy can't even, he's still dreaming about it. I mean, he recently said, I still dream about that. Like,
Dave's a sensitive dude, man. Like,
I mean,
it's crazy.
Tough not to be.
I think you bring in Nandy, the girl that Dave had the drum battle with.
I mean, that's amazing.
Bring Nandy on tour. Yeah. There you go.
Perfect example. Imagine her doing a whole tour or a leg of the tour.
Right. Yeah.
It'd be awesome.
I think you go in the same vein that you're talking about, Mark, but you see if you can go old school and you bring in some of the artists that he loved. You get Stuart Copeland from the Police, and he plays with the Foo Fighters,
absolutely.
Right? Like,
amazing.
Because they have a few big festival headliner dates like this summer, like July, August, and I'm like, maybe those don't hold, maybe they do, but I'm like, if you're going to do those, you go to the artists that he loved and see if they'll come in and play on those.
I don't think you have to go to them. I think they're going to come to Dave.
Possible.
If I'm Stuart Copeland, I'm, hey man, you need me?
Yeah, that's true.
You don't even have to tell anybody it was me. I'll wear a mask. You know what I mean?
The one selfish thing that I'm feeling out of all of this, I think, to kind of tie a bow on where my head's been at on like the genesis of thought processes here is, I fluctuate through whether I want to go see live music or not. It's very easy to go to bed. It's very easy to play a video game or feel comfortable reading a book on the couch. And I have said a couple times on here recently that, like, going to shows recently, I've found an electricity that I definitely lost in the years leading up to this pandemic. I'm feeling it more and more, and I have regrets. I notoriously just like skipped seeing Tom Petty perform, and it's because it's like, I'll see Tom Petty some other time. You know, it's like, that's
Yep.
fine. I don't need to see Tom Petty. And then I never got to see Tom Petty. And part of it's FOMO, and that's not the greatest thing. But part of it is like, I never got to have that exchange that happens between an audience and a stage that is unique to every single band and musician. And allowing yourself to feel that again and to go out and experience that isn't for everybody, but it's scratching my itch now, and it makes me feel super fortunate that I was able to see him play a few times and have that experience. And then I look at everything else and I'm like, okay, well then who else do I need to go see? Because you don't know, 50 years old guy looks like he's 30, played like a storm, like you just don't know. So
I know that's a scary thing. I mean, I'm only 8 years away from that age. And I immediately was like, all right, what am I doing for the next 8 years of my life?
Yeah.
I know I got a bunch of songs I got to record. I better get started on those.
That's right.
It definitely puts a fire under your butt. That's for sure.
Do I have any debt I need to pay off? Yeah. Oh, all kinds of stuff. Like
well, Mark, you were just out on the road though, right?
Yeah.
You went out on the road for a little bit. So quick plug. So you were out with Thrill Driver, right?
No. I was out with Robert Finley.
Oh, you were out with Robert Finley. Right.
He was a blues, soul singer, but likes to rock too. He's really cool. He's been famously described as like the greatest blues guy alive or whatever by, the Black Keys. He's currently signed to their label, and he's open for them. In fact, it was just announced he's going to be opening for Greta Van Fleet on a bunch of shows coming up, and he was just out with Low Cut Connie and Foxy Shazam. I mean, he's like the cool, hot, buzzy guy that you want opening for your band. I think he's going to be doing some dates with the Afghan Wigs too, now that they're coming back. So it's God, I can't describe what it's like playing live again.
That's what I'm getting at, is like you're feeling that now, and that it's got to feel great as a musician being back out at it and engaging with the audience again.
Yes. And to your point about wanting to see people before they go, God, I have a list of bands. Like I went and saw Bob Dylan in 1999 because I thought he was going to die. I saw Stone Temple Pilots because I thought Scott Weiland was going to die. Like there were so many bands I just went and I was like, this guy's going to die. Like I got to go see him.
Yeah. It's a bleak reason to go see a band, but and you want to have that experience.
Sure. And if we're going to spill regrets, I'll spill my one regret. When I moved to New York City 20 plus years ago, every Tuesday night at the Iridium, Les Paul played. And every Tuesday I said to myself, I'm going tonight. I don't care. Nothing's going to stop me. And something always stopped me. And when he passed away, I still to this day think about
you blew it
every Tuesday night, my opportunity to go see Les Paul, the guy who changed the industry forever.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Right at my doorstep, literally blocks away from my apartment. And I was too much of an idiot to not go.
Yeah.
So please go support live music. Go see your favorite bands. Don't regret it later. Music's the most important thing in the world to me, besides my family, of course. And it could change your life. So go see artists, because you never know. You could be 50 in the best shape of your life and die. So not to be blunt about it, but you just, God. Oh, and if there's a third link you want to throw in there, this is just a bonus. The Foo Fighters Carpool Karaoke with James Corden.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's really good.
I know the exact minute because I've been sharing it for the last 2 days. 8 minutes and 43 seconds into that, they pull up to a Guitar Center, and this kind of sums up Taylor too. James is kind of like, did you guys see me air drumming in that? I could kick both your asses, and they're like, all right, let's go over to this Guitar Center and find out. And when they get out of the car and start heading in, the first thing you see is this big, giant black and white photo of Taylor Hawkins. And James goes, oh, is this why you wanted to go to the Guitar Center? Because you knew this picture of you was here. And he gets so embarrassed. And he's like, no,
That's
he doesn't
amazing.
know what to do. He's like, no, I didn't know. And he's kind of like freaking out. And
That's so good.
Anyway, I don't want to spoil the rest, but it's, imagine Dave, Taylor, and James Corden and the Foo Fighters walking into a Guitar Center, and the rest is history. But also a cool thing to share. But man, I don't know. We could go on forever, but just me, personal note. I don't know if Taylor can hear me, but thank you for all the inspiration. Thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for being so cool and having the perfect understanding of what music means to not only yourself, but to other people that come see you play. Because, for me personally, I was a fan first too, and I got inspired and I wanted to learn how to play. And my only reasoning for doing that was in hopes I could give one person, if only one person, the same feeling I got when I got to go see my first live show. And if I could repay that, that's what I'd do. And it seems like Taylor did that every single night.
100%.
Awesome.
Adam, I feel like we ate up all the oxygen here. I'm
sorry,
no.
No. That's why at the beginning I was like, all right, I'm going to hand over the reins here because, I'm not a drummer and I don't have any personal interaction. I never had any personal interaction with him like you did, Liam. But I guess the one thing that I would like to add is that he was one of those people that even if you never met him, you feel like you know him. And I think, at least for me, that's one of the reasons why this hits so hard is, we lost Prince not that long ago. We lost David Bowie not that long ago. Yeah. And it's like, these are some of the most iconic artists ever. But, you never really feel like you're on the same plane of existence as those two.
Great point.
You know what I mean? But Taylor, as he, and I would put him on equal footing with those other two in terms of iconic status. But you feel like you know the guy. You just like in whatever it is, you feel a connection to him. Like, oh man, like he'd be super cool to like hang out with. You know what I mean? If someone was like, hey, do you want to go hang out and have a drink with David Bowie or Prince? I'd be like, no, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, but like Taylor, I feel like you could like just sit down with Taylor and talk about music endlessly and like listen to records and have a beer and like just have the time of your life as if it was your best friend from high school. So that I think that's one of the reasons why, in my mind, being on equal footing as far as influence and stardom, for lack of a better word, it hits way harder than some of those other recent passings that we've had, at least for me.
Yeah, I'll reaffirm that, Adam, 100%. Like I said, I got to see them a few times at festivals. There were sometimes when he was just there doing Chevy metal. Sometimes it was Foo Fighters stuff, but the back area of festivals is crazy, and you don't know how everybody who got in there and what wristband is what. But he was the guy who left the compound. Like there would be this like cordoned off area for certain artists, and obviously the Foo Fighters, or if you are a Foo Fighter, you get that kind of level. And he was always the guy who was wandering around talking to everybody. He would just come and sit with you and talk to you. And I was playing something for Mark before we started off here, where I did a thing on Zoom with the guy a couple months ago, and like he took the first 20 minutes, and usually time is really tight with everybody. He took the first 20 minutes to show us around the Hawk's Nest. He was like, let me give you awesome. A tour of my place. And he just walked us around, and like I deleted the video. Like I never keep the video stuff from that. It's killing me that I don't have that anymore. I just have the audio.
That's savable. Take that. Is it a Mac? Take it to the store right now.
Out of respect, I always get rid of the video on this. But it is exactly what you're saying, man. Like he was always looking to engage with people. He's always the guy who wanted to talk and hang out and share, and he show and tell and listen and have fun. And the energy and the spirit, like the loss of that is brutal. It's really, really hard. So I appreciate you guys both taking this opportunity. I feel like I needed this. Mark, when I hit you, I was like, this is going to be cathartic. I need to talk about this. And Adam, like, I'm glad that I have both of you guys to kind of have this conversation with, because
likewise.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. When you texted me, and I didn't care what time you were going to say we were taping, I was going to cancel everything else, even if it was during work hours and I had to cancel a big interview with a big person who's doing a big thing. I wouldn't even care. I'm sorry, guys, I'm out today.
Appreciate it.
This is too important. Man. And thank you guys for going off grid, as we'd say in the Tron universe, to stuff this. I guess we're calling it a 45 in there.
Yeah.
It's just too important. And
exactly.
I'm not one to compare the impact of certain events in my life, but this is right up there. And, from the music world, and, everyone's of a certain age and they can probably point to something, but this is definitely 10 years ago. I'm going to remember this day. I'm going to be teaching my kid about this song and trying to get her to learn how to play drums and be like, this was a guy named Taylor Hawkins, and like, you're going to love his stuff. And like, I can't wait to share that with my kid, So, and also a fun fact, if you got the deluxe version of Color in the Shape, they stuffed some B-sides on there. One of them is a cover that the Foo Fighters did called Baker Street.
That's right.
And that was Taylor Hawkins' first Foo Fighters performance, if I'm
not
incorrect. He did 2 covers that day, and he recorded them in the UK at BBC Radio. And he was on tour with the Foos in the UK, and they laid down some tracks there, and that was his first recordings for the Foos. So if you like Baker Street and you like the Foo Fighters, you're going to like the Foo Fighters cover of Baker Street.
Well, I'll give you the plug here. So marksayshi.com, right? Go check them out. We actually, Mark, we just did a Weird Al episode last week that we probably should have rung you up for. We'll do another one.
It's not like I have a signed accordion by Weird Al. I gotta get my personal accordion.
Dang.
It's not like I've been in the guy's house, Liam.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm
just kidding. I would love to do all of these, but I get it.
Yeah. But yeah, Mark Says Hi. Check him out. He's in a bunch of bands. He does cool stuff. He's really funny, wonderful person. And it's Mark Says Hi on all socials.
Yeah,
right?
just if you Google Mark Says Hi, it's
not Hi, my name is Mark, which is Mark Hoppus.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. He can look. He's huge and famous. He can do whatever he wants. What can
that's
I do?
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, Mark, thank you for coming on. We're really happy to have you as a friend of the show. You're welcome to come on anytime you'd like to talk about anything you'd like. And again, to reiterate, I wish that we had been able to get together on not quite as tragic circumstances, but appreciate your input so much. I feel like this was good for all of us, and I think you said it best. Go see live music. Do it. It's like the one thing that you'll spend money on that you'll never regret.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the way that we can kind of carry on Taylor's spirit, if you will.
Yeah, he would have bought a ticket to whatever show you were going to go see. Promise you that.
100%. Well, thank you, listener, for joining us. Hopefully this was helpful and cathartic for you as well. This has been our first little 45. I hope next time it's not under the same kind of last minute and heartbreaking circumstances. But this has been RetroGroove, and you can check us out on Twitter, RetroGroove_pod, and on all of the social media things. You can find us. You know where we are.